Hi, it's Ivy Slater. Welcome to Slater Success Live. Excited to be here today. Hope everybody had a great Memorial Day weekend. And we are kicking off the month of June. Today is June 1st, and I'm thrilled to kick it off with a topic that is incredibly important, especially as we step into the summer months and to enjoy. I'll always say we build great businesses and great careers to enjoy a great life. And one of the things Jessica Harrington specializes with, she is the CEO of Journey to Yourself. She grew up with addiction and mental health in her family. So she started her career in the drug and alcohol field. Through her career as well as education, she realized that, you know what, these issues had a lot of things in common. The struggle around handling stress. So, Jessica, I am thrilled you're joining us here today as we talk about how to handle stress, de-stress, eliminate stress, enjoy these beautiful, what are we coming into, the great 3 months of summer. And that's why I thought kicking this off on June 1st was meant to be. Thank you for joining me.
Oh my gosh, thanks, Abby. I'm so excited to be here. I really appreciate what you're doing and having me on here.
Terrific. And I just want to give a big shout out to viewers, listeners, as you scroll through LinkedIn during our 30-minute program. You come across Jessica and I's conversation. Feel free to ask questions that are important to you about what gets you stopped up as far as stress. Where do you stress? What helps you de-stress? If you could eliminate stress and have questions about it, this is the platform and the day to ask. So, Jessica, let's just start with a little bit of the background because I'm always curious. Okay. So, you had, mental health and addiction in family history and stuff, and that drove you to take that on as a career. Can you share more about where you started and where you ended up opening Journey to Yourself?
Yeah, of course. So, yes, so I grew up in an addiction household, right? Mental health. So I, like most of us, we go for, what we know. So I got my degree in drug and alcohol, and I started working in a rehab. And
wait, there's a degree in drug and alcohol?
Yes.
Honestly, you learn something new every day. This is why you have to show up for these kind of things.
Right? There's a degree for everything, right? So, that was my passion. Like, I'm going to go help. I'm going to, create all these new ideas, and I'm going to, go conquer the world with this. And so I'm there and I'm working with a lot of these patients, and they all have this similar issue, right? Similar factor of it's stress. I don't know how to deal with this. I don't know how to deal with the breakup, the job loss, finances, time management. How do I tell people communication? And I'm going, everybody has this issue. This isn't just in this field, right? And so as I'm thinking about more of this and I'm doing more of this, I'm also seeing the burnout around me, around my coworkers. And so 20-year-old Jess is like, what do you mean? What's so matter? It's rainbows and butterflies out here, guys. What are you so burnt out for? This is so weird, So I started learning more about burnout, and I was like, wow, this is literally everywhere. This is in every field. This is in every situation. People are experiencing stress, but no one's talking about it, let alone doing something about it, right? So it's very much well, it's stress and it's just life. So now what? So super nutshell is I was getting my bachelor's at the same time as I was still working at the rehab. Finished that, graduated, was looking for the next thing, and I called around different colleges. I said, I'm not really too sure what the degree is next because, like we just said, there's a degree for everything. But I said, I want my own business. I want to teach about stress management. These are my, a couple other things I mentioned. And they said, go get your master's in public health. And so that's what I did. And so then I started my business.
It's interesting because when we think about this, right, we think about, well, mental health is when you have a real problem. Okay. So you compartmentalize that. Well, that's the extreme, but that's not true. Stress and burnout is part of, I'll say it's when we reach that overwhelm, like you're up to here. And then slowly the water level's going above, and you feel like you're drowning. And it's sometimes, work is really busy. For I honest to goodness conversation today is somebody said, oh my God, I feel so better because I didn't actually work last week. And it was the first weekend of the year I have not worked.
Wow.
And I said, And she goes, I feel so burnt out. And my response was, wow, I'm so surprised.
Yeah.
So, when we look at managing stress, when we look at, okay, stress is everywhere. And I'll even say, in our hybrid work society that has been created in this world, we have less boundaries.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So
Sure.
like we're showing up in our offices with our fuzzy slippers and yoga pants and a button down shirt,
Yep.
uh, and then we wonder why it's 8, 9 o'clock and we're still doing this, for hours on end. What is some proactive, so I don't think, as much as you and I can talk about some of the problems probably endlessly
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
and what's causing this, what if we focused on some solutions?
For sure. So really quick on the overwhelming feeling. I think you explained it really well with the drowning, but I've also someone mentioned the other day that it feels like quicksand. And so it's always right. So it's when you're paddling really fast and you're doing all the different things and you're like,
Still sinking.
you're still sinking. You're still
So
sinking.
instead of the water level going up, your body is going down and you feel like you're being a little like getting hardened in cement or going into quicksand.
Yeah. And then all that anxiety raises up, right? From drowning or the quicksand, right? So definitely, yeah, it's definitely a good analogy for sure.
And I think when you just said the anxiety raises up, one of the things we talk a lot about is being clear-headed in decision making.
Yeah.
And when you are overwhelmed like that, if you're drowning or going in quicksand or however you want to look at it, your clear-headedness, and that's probably not an English word, and I will own that.
I don't know. I feel like I was going to coin it. I like that one.
It is at, well, so often you hear people say, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 high, 10 low, 1 low, how clear-headed are you on your decision making?
Yeah.
0.
But it's true because even like you were just talking about your one coworker, when you're on the run that much, you're not clear-headed. You haven't taken that step back. So you just asked about some solutions, right? So a big one would be literally taking that step back. I know a lot of us say, take that deep breath, take meditation, all the things, but sometimes you're not ready for that yet. Sometimes you're so overwhelmed or haven't even practiced that meditation piece that you're not ready for that. So what can you do right now, right? Or, what can I do right now? So it's literally just pushing yourself back from the desk physically and going, okay, what can I do right now? What is that one thing, just one thing I can do right now? Because what that overwhelmingness, a lot of it is that to-do list, that never ending to-do list that we're like, oh, I'm going to write everything down and I'm just going to stare at this list all day and maybe cross 2 things off and go, well, I'm worthless. I only crossed 2 things off today. Right? And so what we don't do is count all the little things we do in between those steps, right? So whether it's mindless social media scrolling or it's just the preparation to complete those action steps, right? So there's 2 things that can be happening, but when we take that step back, a few things can happen. I'm becoming aware of what I am doing, whether I'm doing the social media too much or there's just more preparation in what I have to do. But also it's realizing that I need to take a break. Like you mentioned your coworker earlier about how she realized, oh, I feel good right now. I feel happy right now. When we're completely in it and we keep moving, you don't realize what's happening. You don't realize those feelings that are happening, right?
It's interesting because as you're speaking, things that are flitting through my head, and viewers, if you're scrolling, if something is resonating with you, just jot it into the chat or the comments. But one thing that is resonating for me is we're not supposed to be finishing a to-do list. And I think there's a huge misconception there. We put things on a to-do list and we say, people have come to me, I'm so overwhelmed with my to-do list. And I'm like, why? You're not supposed to finish it. And they're like, oh my God, what? I'm not supposed to finish it? They're like, of course I have to finish it. I have to get my job done. I'm like, no, because as we're taking things off, we're adding more things on. And depending upon how busy we are at work, sometimes we're adding more on, sometimes we have less on, and if the to-do list is overwhelming you, how do you shift that?
So for me, I talk about the Eisenhower box. I don't know if you ever heard of this, But basically, he was really known for how he prioritized. So he was really good at, okay, I absolutely need to get this done. This is urgent. This can be deleted off my list. I can delegate this, right? So he always made a box every morning on his to-do list, right? But he put it all in order. So I do it a little bit different. I put a little Jess touch on it. And so I do the same thing. So every morning I make my Jess box and I put it in categories. So I don't like the long to-do list. It doesn't work for me. Like you were kind of saying, it's just overwhelming and it's just never ending. It just feels like that Santa Claus list where it's just like super long, you know? So for me, it goes, okay, today is Wednesday, June 1st. I'm going to open my calendar and go, what are the action steps I have to get done at home? So we just went away this weekend. So that laundry pile, there's 2 of us. I have no idea why we have so much laundry, but you know what I mean? Laundry is absolutely getting done today. That's the one thing I have to get done around the house. Then I have a spot for me. What is the one thing I want to do for me today? Well, I really want to do some yoga. That 20 minutes of yoga would mean a lot to me. What's in the business? What's that one thing I have to get done in the business today? Right. So, and then I have my miscellaneous where it's just like, oh, this would be really nice, or the urgent, right? So I have an extra box. But for me, it just categories going, okay, what I absolutely have to get done today. And if I have, maybe sometimes there's 2 things, maybe there's sometimes 3 things in the me box because I've been overwhelmed and I need that break time. Right. So maybe it's, oh, I have to journal, I have to work out, and I have to go for my outside walk today. Right. So, but it's that every day check in with yourself. That's really important too.
Well, Mick Collins is jumping in and he's saying, and I love Mick. There's a reason I love Mick. Triage tasks, urgency and importance.
Yes.
And I think it makes so much sense. You know, when people say, well, everything is important, Ivy, I'm like, you know what? I will always say yes and, as opposed to, right? Yes, and everything is important, but not everything has the same deadline. And I am deadline centric, so I created a self deadline for myself. Okay. And I said, we're going to a wedding this summer. And it's not in the New York area. And I kept saying, I got to book flights. I got to book flights. The longer you wait, if anybody's checked airfares lately, there's only one way they're going, and that's like above the water level.
Oh yeah.
And Mick saying, I need a me box too. I think we all need a me box, right?
We all need one, right?
Once was the Ivy me box.
Yes.
The Ivy me box. And I said, at first I said, I'll get this done before the holiday weekend. And the holiday weekend things, family was coming in. It was going to be busy. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to let that go. And I'm going to move the deadline.
Nice.
So I'm going to book. It's going to be handled before June 1.
Nice. But like you did, sorry, Pat.
Yeah, it was, I gave myself permission to shift the deadline. Now, granted, not all deadlines can be shifted.
True. This is true, right? And that's where the urgency part's going to come in, right? Okay, I have to do this. This has to get done, things like that. So it's that check-in again, right? Because I don't know about you, but my calendar just has names and times. And I'm going, what do I have to do? Where do I have to be? Where to go? So I have to check in because there's so many other factors in my life. And I think when we first met, we talked about this. We all wear so many hats, right? Your mom, your aunt, your sister, your friend, you're a business owner, you're an employee, you're a boss, right? The hats are endless. So by the time you start to go, oh, and I'm Ivy, you already listed like 12 hats prior to that. So making sure that you're putting you as that first one, right? So then I know when I can change the deadline. I know when I have to set new boundaries. I know my time management. Or like you said, some people think that everything's important. Well, when I start to make time for myself, I'm going to learn the different boundaries going, actually, this doesn't make me happy. And that's okay. Right?
And, and I think one of the things when you spoke before about delegating, if something doesn't make me happy, if I don't enjoy doing, right, a piece of this, who else, whose sweet spot that is, can support me in that. And I think we hold on to things. And I'm going to throw myself right into here. Okay. Because I teach a lot, but remember, I'm a student of my own work on a daily basis.
100%.
But in the way of, we hold on to things for the sense of control and the sense of, and I was talking to a client earlier, they're like, I know I should release this. I know, but if I just, I'll be so much faster. I'll do it good. And I said, we hold on, we grasp, and we struggle releasing as much as possible. And I will always say, the more I release, the better, not just my company is, the better I am.
For sure. And the better you show up for your company. So even going back, you mentioned, delegating to somebody that it's their sweet spot, right? So it's, okay, I know you're good at this. So that goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning. That's your awareness. I need to know that I'm not an A+ student at this, but it's okay to give it to somebody else, right? But the second piece you kind of started talking about too is, I can do it faster. I'll do it the right way. I'll do it better, right? But now you're just putting more on your to-do list and that pressure on something. But with that, and this is really hard for a lot of us to think about, is that there's more than one way to do something, right? I used to do the example of folding laundry. I always tell my clients, especially that are wives, right, that their husband can fold the laundry. Because guess what? It doesn't matter if he folds left to right or right to left. It's okay. It's still getting folded and still getting done. It might take him a half an hour and it only takes you 15 minutes, but you're able to do something else now. Right. And so remembering, I think that's a big one too, because knowing that there's more than one way to do it, or if your way is the most effective way, which is possible, because like you said, you're a student of what you're teaching, right? Hey, I found that this works the best, but at the end of the day, they're still going to do it their way.
Right. So I think Mick is weighing in again, and I appreciate this. He said, sometimes after you've kicked the can down you've kicked the deadline can down the road. And we've all done it. You kind of move that, and I need another few days, I need another few days. You realize there was never a deadline, and that you can eliminate that task or delegate if possible. And I think that's a great piece to talk about. It raises our level of consciousness. We put so much pressure on ourselves so often.
So much.
And I will throw out this example and tell me what you think, because this is the first thing that came to mind. I like to exercise. I do a trainer a couple of days a week because it keeps me on task.
Yes.
And I was like, and the other day I said, and we were trying to figure out, I had jury duty, I had some work stuff going on, like what day are we working out? And Friday came up, and I said, you know what? Friday I was going to go take a walk. And I was like, but maybe I shouldn't take the walk because I should work out. And that taking a walk outside is working out.
Sure is.
I don't have to run 3 miles. I can actually have conversation with people, like possibly take a walk with my daughter or somebody or a friend of mine, and I can have something that looks different.
Yes. I love that you said that, because whether it's the working out, whether it's meditation, whether it's journaling, reading, whatever your habit is, right? We all have them. That it doesn't have to be that one thing, right? If you're still showing up for yourself the way you need to show up for yourself that day, that's what you need to do, right? So maybe it's not like you said, the 3 mile run, but I still am showing up for myself. Right. But what we do in our mind, and correct me if I'm wrong, if this wasn't you, is that, walking isn't as effective as the 3 mile run. So I'm now being lazy. I'm taking the easy way out.
Oh, I don't want to work out. I'm going to putter in my garden. Now, I don't know about any of these viewers out there, but I know I gardened a few weeks ago, and by 9 o'clock that night, sitting down on the couch was a full squat for me. It was so hard. I felt my legs like, oh my God, right? But I'm like, I can't miss this workout to just play in the garden. But I think it's a lot of, giving ourselves permission.
Yeah.
To show up, and showing up is not always has to look the same all the time.
It doesn't. It's showing up for what you need then. Right. And so that comes back to what we were saying in the beginning. It's that awareness. It's knowing what I need in that moment, but being okay with it might be something different. But if I put different tools in my toolbox, I'm going to learn what works and what doesn't work. right? I'm going to realize that gardening does work me out because it's hot outside. I'm lifting things. Those soil bags are not light, okay? You know, but like having that understanding of what I need and being okay with it, right? And I think what I always like to bring up too is that the way we talk to ourselves, the things that we say to ourselves, whether I'm being lazy, I'm not showing up, I'm dumb, I'm stupid. I mean, everything, right? That we say to ourselves.
Or that inner self-talk that goes on a circle or now on the reel, the good old fashioned, all right, like the old people, so to speak, right? Who we had the reel of tape, and it just that reel, and it's a link, it's a loop that goes back all day long, and we self-criticize and self-reflect in a critical manner.
Oh, for sure, and we all have it, right? So again, I'm still human. I preach about stress management, self-love. I still have it, right? But coming to realization of, if I called you and I said, oh, Ivy, I did a walk today. I didn't do my 3-mile run. I've been so lazy and I'm just going to walk instead. Would your first thought be that I'm being lazy, or I'm not showing up for myself, or I'm not, holding myself accountable to this 3 times a week training? And I'm not saying this is the conversation you had. I'm just, this is very common. But like the things that we say to ourselves when we're getting ready, when we're about to present, when we're about to do a new project, when we're going to try something new, again, that inner critic comes up, right? And I always ask yourself, if today you wrote down every negative thing you said to yourself, I'm dumb, I'm lazy, I'm not good enough, no one loves me. Would you write all that down and put dear sister at the top, dear mom at the top, dear best friend at the top? Right? You would never say any of that stuff to someone you care about, who you love, who you respect, right? But we say it to ourselves.
We say it to ourselves. We hold. I think we hold ourselves to a very, very, very high task margin. This high echelon that we're striving for perfection. And I think we forget that the word perfection is actually the idea, and the concept of perfection is not defined. It's subjective.
Yeah.
So we're striving for something that has no definition. So we can't reach it, right? Because it looks differently for all of us.
All of us. Yeah.
And the second we improve, we just raise the bar.
So the second we get closer, we don't even reach the mark. We're like, oh, we're getting closer. I now can do 4 times a week. So I have to raise the bar. And it's like, well, yeah, you did that once, 1 week. And so now it's like your automatic thing. No, you don't have to train 4 times a week this week, But no, we automatically raise the bar. Like you said, we set unrealistic standards for ourselves. Right.
And so how do we, the loop that's of self-talk that goes on, and I know I have been guilty of it over the years, more times than I care to count.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Okay. And it still shows up. I think it's one of those ever learning experiences. How do we help shift that loop?
So there's a couple things, and kind of just like we've talked about at the beginning, take what works for you. If you're like, no, that's not going to work for me, put it to the side. I don't say throw it out because it might work later on. I just say put it to the side, right? So there's a couple of things when that comes up. The one that really works for me, there's 2 things that always really work for me is, does this serve me? Does this do me any good? Does this bring me happiness? Right? So basically checking in with that thought going, well, this isn't going to get me anywhere. Because a lot of the times we have these conversations where it's like, oh, well, she's mad at me. She doesn't like me. He doesn't love me today. He thinks I'm ugly, right? So does that serve me? Does that get me anywhere? Does that bring me happiness? Is that going to help my relationship succeed? No, that thought is not going to do that, right? The other one that really works for me in those moments is there one thing I can do right now? Is there one action step that I can do right now to do something about this? So for instance, maybe I was being anxious coming on here, like, oh, we're going to go live. Oh my goodness, I'm sweating. We've all had those first interviews where we're just like, whoo, here we go, and so, what is one thing I could do right now? Well, I can write things down. I can check in with myself. I can write things down and say, oh, these are some cue notes I can talk about. I can call a friend. I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm super nervous right now. Give me some prep. Give me some hype. Give me some, give me something I need right now. Right. So what is that one action step I can do? And then there's that other one where we all have, there's that one story that we tell ourselves all through the day, especially when we're feeling in quicksand or we feel like we're drowning. That story, like you're saying, it's on that reel. It's on that, I call it the hamster wheel. And it just keeps spinning and spinning, right? It just keeps on going. When we get that one keep coming up, I always just say change the channel. Because a lot of times we're like, oh, we got to stop the thought completely and we're, whatever. Change the channel.
Well, I like you. I like what you're saying there. By the way, Mick just weighed in. He goes, "Boy, does my mom need to hear this." It's true. So when you're referencing change the channel, because I think this is a great. It resonated immediately with me as a visual.
Love that.
I know I don't do horror movies. Okay, it's just not my thing, right? Halloween, whatever that horror movie is, I don't do horror movies. I don't do blood and guts. Every person who knows me knows this piece of information. Now, all of you know this piece of information. Don't recommend a horror movie for me to watch. I'm not going to. Okay. So if what's going on in the hamster wheel loop at that moment is a horror movie, why would I stay on the channel? I would immediately change the channel. If I was surfing and I was like, oh my God, Halloween 13, I don't think so. Click, click, click. And I would change that channel. We have those choices to change the channel.
We sure do. We sure do.
One thing I said to a client years ago, who had, a high piece of responsibility and was up for a lot in their position. There was a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And it was part of, raising their leadership team, but also managing the pressure of what was being looked towards this person. And I said, before you go into any meeting, and now bear in mind, there was not a lot of privacy in this person's offices. It was a global organization. I said, just turn your desk chair around. Just turn it around. I said, put 60 seconds on a timer or find a 1-minute meditation. I gave them a few. And I said, and just breathe for 60 seconds before you go into that next board meeting, the CEO meeting, the president meeting, or whatever else. I said, and then even do it with the meeting with your teams. And they came back and said to me that it was a game changer. Because although we put it as a 60-second meditation, what it was is grounding and clearing yourself for the meeting you're about to step into.
And we need it. And I know we just talked about meetings earlier, whether it's a big CEO meeting or not. If you're not giving your time between events or between meetings and things like that, you're going to burn yourself out and you're not going to be able to show up. You're not going to be able to show up. You're going to be there physically, but mentally you're going to be on that to-do list. Mentally, you're going to be like, oh my God, I just want to go to sleep. Mentally, I'm going to go, is she ever going to stop talking about her dog? Right? So mentally, I'm not going to be there. And then why go? Right?
Jessica, I love this conversation, and Lord knows we can go on for hours, and you have brought up so many pertinent things for me and viewers as you continue to see this. If this resonated with you, please share it forward, because this is really important and very practical content. You had me think about something. I was like, well, when did I start doing this? And I was like, well, I remember when I was selling printing, even my really young days, and I'd go into a new building for a new meeting and my stomach would be in knots. And I'd get to that lobby a few minutes early and I would just kind of center myself, like just breathe in that lobby. Sometimes it was too hot. It could have been winter and you're so bundled up and I was running Manhattan on the go. And I kind of didn't want to walk in with that energy. To this, a potential client or even an existing client. And I would just hang out in the lobby for a couple of minutes and kind of bring my body temperature like regulated, or if it was hot in New York City, if it was cold, if it was fall, whatever it was. And there's so many little things we could do for ourselves. How could our viewers continue to learn and know more from you?
Oh, I love that. First of all, that's awesome. You started that so long ago. I think that's amazing because it's definitely important. For me, LinkedIn, obviously message me anytime. My email is jessica@journeytoyourself. And then my website's journeytoyourself.net. So plenty of resources on there. Videos are on there. Podcast. There's so many things I just want to share. So it's all on there for you. And any question, whether it's you commented on here, please reach out. I just want to help. So I don't want to be over there to support.
And viewers know that Jessica and I are going to be staying tuned to this stream. So if you have questions, you have comments, always love when people put in their biggest takeaway. Oh, I'm sorry. It's Jessica Mara that said my mom needs to hear this.
Oh.
Love it. Love it. And you know what? Share this forward with your mom and share it forward with your colleagues, your friends, people that this could be an asset to. Thank you for joining us live today. Stay tuned. And Jessica, thank you. Mick says, thank you, Ivy and Jessica. Jessica says, thank you. She's on your site now. That's about action, people.
Yes.
Action.
Accountability. Yes.
You know what? And here's the deal. You can put another item on your to-do list to check it out and just pull it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Make it easy. Jessica, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun. Thank you.
And viewers, stay tuned. Our next LinkedIn Live, our next Slater Success Live is on June 15th at 4 p.m. with Cecilia Razek. More great episodes coming this month. We're actually going to get 2 more in because we have July 4th before we know it. Take things forward today. Step into this season, June, July, August, de-stressed. If you're feeling stressed, don't stay there. Reach out. Thank you for joining us. Put your takeaways in the stream, share this forward, and see you next time.